big story of the day. Now, as far as the centre is concerned, the centre has opposed same-sex marriage in its submission, which was made in the Supreme Court. Filing one more affidavit just 2 days ahead of the Supreme Court hearing on the matter, the government has stated that the petitioners, by demanding same-sex marriage rights, were advancing, quote-unquote, an urban elitist view for the purpose of social acceptance. Centre actually contended that same-sex marriage is a concept they believe is far removed from the social ethos of the country, and that reorganizing or recognizing the same would be tantamount to creating a new social institution. Raising objections on the Supreme Court's competence to decide the issue, the affidavit also says that only competent legislature can take a decision by taking into account broader views of all rural, semi-rural and urban population as well, and also the views of religious denominations. The government further said that the Supreme Court may first decide the maintainability of the petition as a preliminary issue. Also, the National Protection for Commission of Child Rights, the NCPCR, has also opposed this legislation of same-sex marriages and stated that children raised by same-sex couples and parents may, quote-unquote, according to the NCPCR, may have limited exposure to traditional gender roles. So that's, of course, as far as the pleas is concerned. There have been two pleas which have been filed by the centre and also the NCPCR. Both seem to be on the same page and both of them have opposed same-sex marriages. Reactions have also come in. Let's listen in.
देखिए, हम लोगों ने एक इंटरवेंशन एप्लीकेशन फाइल की है इस मामले में। हमने माननीय सर्वोच्च न्यायालय को ये बताया है कि इस तरीके के मामले में जुवेनाइल जस्टिस एक्ट, जो भारत में बच्चों के अधिकार के संरक्षण के लिए बनाया गया है, जिसको भारत की संसद ने बनाया है, उसने बच्चों को जो अधिकार दिए हैं वो अधिकार सुरक्षित रहने चाहिए। आयोग का जो काम है वो लिमिटेड है, यहाँ तक कि हमको किशोर न्याय अधिनियम की मॉनिटरिंग करनी है, उससे जुड़े हुई शिकायतों का निवारण करना है।
All right, that was of course the NCPCR chief who has made it very clear, claiming and saying that the NCPCR is not in favor of same-sex marriages, and that's the affidavit which they have filed in the court as well. My colleague Harish is joining us on the phone line with more details on the same. Harish, take us through this affidavit which has been filed by the centre. This is the second time that the centre is opposing same-sex marriages. They've made certain views also clear in that affidavit which they have filed. Take us through exactly what the centre's affidavit says, first of all.
Yes, you're right. This is the second time the Supreme Court, the centre has filed an affidavit in the Supreme Court opposing the concept of same-sex marriage. The centre has in the fresh affidavit said that first the Supreme Court should hear the centre's preliminary objections as far as this batch of petitions are concerned. When the hearing commences before a constitution bench, very important hearing going to commence tomorrow before a constitution bench led by Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud. The centre has in an affidavit filed late night yesterday questioned the Supreme Court's competence itself to entertain petitions demanding extension of the concept of marriage beyond heterosexual unions, and said it was tantamount to creating a new social institution. The government, opposing the demand for recognition of same-sex marriage, dubbed such marriage as an urban elitist concept far removed from the social ethos of the country. The affidavit also went on to say the competent legislature will have to take into account broader views and voice of all rural, semi-rural and urban population, views of the religious dominations and also personal laws as well as customs governing the field of marriage. It said marriage is an institution which can be created, recognized, conferred with legal sanctity and regulated only by the competent legislature. So very important affidavit filed by the government.
Absolutely a significant affidavit which has been filed by the centre, in which they have made their opposition to the same-sex marriage is absolutely clear. These submissions have been made in the SC. This case is going to be heard tomorrow. Pranesh is also joining us from the newsroom. Pranesh, take us through the reasons which the centre has given when they're opposing same-sex marriages in this latest affidavit which they filed in the SC.
That's right, Meenakshi. This is a case which will be taken up by the Supreme Court tomorrow, and the centre over the last few months had indicated its stand, but now that they've filed an affidavit, they've given reasons why they are saying what they're saying. 6 objections expressed by the centre. Objection number 1, petitioners advancing urban elitist view for purpose of social acceptance. The centre is saying this. Objection number 2, creation of a new social institution beyond the scope of judicial determination. This is what the centre feels. And ahead of the hearing, it's interesting that they've put this in black and white now. Objection number 3, marriage an institution which can be regulated only by competent legislature. Number 4, competent legislature will have to take into account broader views. So at a time when there is a debate already on social media that why should this not be allowed, it is between two consenting adults. The centre says should take into account voice of rural, semi-rural and urban population. The next objection by the centre is that the court recognizing it would mean virtual judicial rewriting of the entire branch of law. So these are really strong points. We will have to see that when this comes up for hearing tomorrow, what the other side says, because the Supreme Court will have to hear both sides before it takes a decision on this.
Well, absolutely strong contentions which have of course been raised by the centre. The centre saying that this concept, according to the centre, is far removed from the social ethos of the country. Harish was also live with us. Harish, as far as the centre is concerned, of course, they have now explained the reasons behind their objections. They've put it in black and white. But one thing has been consistent. The centre from the beginning of the case has been questioning the court's competence to decide on the issue, basically saying that it should be the legislature or the parliament which should finally legislate or take a decision far as same-sex marriages is concerned.
So you are correct. The centre has been consistent in its stand. Remember, earlier on March 12, it was on March 12 that the centre filed its first affidavit opposing the concept of same-sex marriages. The centre had then told the Supreme Court that it's not in conformity with the societal morality and Indian ethos. In that affidavit said the legislative understanding of marriage in Indian statutory and personal law regime refers to only marriage between a biological man and a biological woman, and any interference would cause a complete havoc with the delicate balance of personal laws in the country and in accepted societal values. And coming to your question, the Supreme Court had very clearly said that in fact the centre had very clearly said that.
So the centre basically wants the legislature really to decide and not the SC. Harish, stay with us. We also have Zeenat Shaukat Ali, activist, who's on the phone line with us. Zeenat Shaukat Ali, how do you react to this affidavit which has been filed by the centre? This is the second affidavit. Centre has already opposed same-sex marriages, but this time they've gone a step ahead. They've explained why they're opposing it, and according to the centre, same-sex marriage, to just quote the centre, is or rather tantamount to advancing an urban elitist view for the so-called purpose of social acceptance. How do you react?
You know, my reasons, I do not encourage the same-sex marriages, nor do I stand for that. But my reason it is not social norm simply. Because, it is not because of that I oppose it. You see, what is marriage? Marriage is a contract between two individuals. It is a sexual conjugal relation. It is a sexual relation between two with the aim to reproduce a child, with the aim of reproduction of an individual. So it is not sex for the sake of sex. It is sex for the sake of a purpose. And therefore, I personally oppose this, because I believe that, you know, sexual morality is something that is a subject on its own, and it requires sort of an in-depth study and understanding. But I'm giving you a peripheral understanding of what I believe in, is that any kind of conjugal relation between two individuals has to not simply be sexual, but it has to have the aim also of reproducing children, bringing up a family, and that is a family that constitutes as a small part of society. And so therefore I believe that this law should not be passed.
Okay, with all due respect to your views, ma'am, many would disagree and say that, you know, marriage for the concept of procreation is rather archaic. You say that, you know, marriage should lead to reproduction of children. Adoption is also a possibility. I'm taking you through what the NCPCR said. NCPCR is also opposed to the same and said adopted children, if you have gay parents, may lead to limited exposure. I wish I could have taken this further, but it's time for a short commercial break. Thank you for joining us on the broadcast. With that, we'll step into a short commercial break. News and updates on the other side. Don't go anywhere.